is Cornelius Nomechi. I'm a medical doctor from Ghana. I completed my MPA degree at the Harvard THM School of Public Health this past summer. Last year, during my application process, I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Banda Khalifa, who is a friend and a senior colleague. Dr. Banda's knowledge and experience of the graduate application process made it easier to write an outstanding personal statement, also aim for the right test course and finding the right people to write recommendation letters for me. He also gave me a really good insight about the funding landscape available for me for my education. I was able to get admission into most of the top schools that I applied for, including Johns Hopkins, Columbia University, Boston University, and then Harvard University. Yeah, so if you are actually looking to advance your studies and you're looking for a good and friendly coach, I would recommend no other person than Dr. Banda.
Hi, my name is Dr. Banda Khalifa. I'm a physician and a current PhD student at the world's #1 School of Public Health, the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. I also earned a dual Master of Public Health, a Master of Business Administration on a fully funded SOMA Scholarship here at the Bloomberg School after gaining admission to Harvard, Yale, Columbia, and the rest of the top schools. So, tell a friend to also tell a friend. Come along with me by subscribing to this channel as I share all the techniques and strategies for putting together a strong application package and hear from experiences from some of the most successful international scholars. I'll also invite program directors, admission committee members to share insights into what it takes to get into their program.
Hello everyone, my name is Cornelius Nomechi. I'm a medical doctor from Ghana. I completed my MPA degree at the Harvard THM School of Public Health this past summer. Last year, during my application process, I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Banda Khalifa, who is a friend and a senior colleague. Dr. Banda's knowledge and experience of the graduate application process made it easier to write an outstanding personal statement, also aim for the right test course and finding the right people to write recommendation letters for me. He also gave me a really good insight about the funding landscape available for me for my education. I was able to get admission into most of the top schools that I applied for, including Johns Hopkins, Columbia University, Boston University, and then Harvard University. Yeah, so if you are actually looking to advance your studies and you're looking for a good and friendly coach, I would recommend no other person than Dr. Banda.
Hi, my name is Dr. Banda Khalifa. I'm a physician and a current PhD student at the world's #1 School of Public Health, the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. I also earned a dual Master of Public Health, a Master of Business Administration on a fully funded SOMA Scholarship here at the Bloomberg School after gaining admission to Harvard, Yale, Columbia, and the rest of the top schools. So tell a friend to also tell a friend. Come along with me by subscribing to this channel as I share all the techniques and strategies for putting together a strong application package and hear from experiences from some of the most successful international scholars. I'll also invite program directors, admission committee members to share insights into what it takes to get into their program.
Hello everyone, my name is I'm a medical doctor from Ghana. I completed my MPA degree at the Harvard School of Public.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching us from. It's Dr. Bada Khalifa, your host for today's event. As usual, this is the Scholars Table, and I'm very much delighted to welcome one of our guests today. If this is your first time, kindly join the family, subscribe to our YouTube channel, join the family, and then let's progress together. So today we are privileged to host a very dynamic data scientist who has become a beacon of resilience. So in Anita's journey, she initially had a setback from applying to multiple schools in the UK, and then tried again the following year, and then got scholarships to Oxford, Cambridge, and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. It can never be greater than this. So we've taken the opportunity to kind of dive in today, look into her transformative journey from meticulous applications to triumphant admissions and the rigorous quest for scholarships. If this is your first time, I'm thrilled to have you here. Our family at the Scholars Table streams live on both YouTube and LinkedIn. So don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and feel free to hop between platforms for your best streaming experience. If you have any questions, please leave your comments either in YouTube or in LinkedIn, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Today's session is mainly going to be very interactive. So we have Anita here already. Without talking too much, let me invite Anita so that we will all hear from her extraordinary journey. Hi Anita, good evening.
Hi.
And welcome to the Scholars Table.
Thank you. Good evening to you. Oh, it's evening, afternoon. Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, it's afternoon. It's afternoon. Yeah, but I guess it's the evening in Kenya, right?
Yes, it's late evening now.
All right. All right. Great. So I mean, ever since you know, I heard your story. I've been very inspired. Once in a while we get to witness such interesting stories on LinkedIn and elsewhere, and this platform is mainly built so that we would have access to people with unique experiences and unique stories to share for people to also take advantage of. So let's start off from the basics. People want to know who Anita is. So could you share some insights into your early life? Maybe how those experiences influence your academic journey and your career choices.
Okay, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Anita McCrory, as most of you know. Currently, I'm a data scientist at the Center for Epidemiological Modeling and Analysis at the University of Nairobi in Kenya. Before that, I was a student. I did my undergraduate and graduated in 2020, and I did a Bachelor of Science degree in epidemiology and biostatistics. And before that, I was a very enthusiastic young girl who enjoyed math and always knew that she wanted to get into a career in the health space. But I kind of knew that I didn't want to be in the front line, taking care of patients in the front line, but I knew I wanted to work in the health sector. So after high school in Kenya, after high school, we get to join university. So that's when you consider your career options. And with the help of my parents, I was able to look around online and settle on the course that I did, which is epidemiology and biostatistics. And this is because it allowed me to be in the health sector, but from the behind the scenes point of view. So I could do research, I could
Yeah.
immerse myself in the issues that affect people's health outcomes, but not necessarily in the front line. And also, the biostatistics part has numbers. I like numbers, and that also helped me play around with numbers in that regard. So basically, that is me. That's what I do, and that is what informed what I do now.
Yeah, that seems quite exciting. I mean, to love numbers explains why you are a data scientist. So you did your bachelor's in epidemiology and biostatistics. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that might that also explains your interest with disease modeling and all that. But how did you come to work with the Center for Epidemiological Modeling and Analysis?
So how I came to work at SEMA is quite interesting. I find it interesting because it was not the normal apply, get a job, go in. So around my final year in university, I started reaching out to people, that is, health researchers, principal investigators in Kenya who are doing research that I thought was interesting. So I would go online and research on these research institutes and the scientists based there and look at what they were working on or what teams they were leading. And then I
Okay.
would write emails to them and express interest. So I would introduce myself, and then I would explain how I find the work that they do interesting in this regard, and that I would like to learn from them and from their team. And I wrote several of them, but no, none of them replied the first time,
Yeah.
obviously, because they were thinking, who's this? But yeah, so spanning a period of like 5 months, because we were home during the COVID-19 pandemic at that time in 2020. So spanning a period of 5 months, I kept writing emails, I kept writing, and then finally, this one professor reached out to me, reached back, and he's the co-director at SEMA, and
Okay.
he's also a professor at Washington State University. So when he reached out, he told me to visit their offices so I could see what work they are doing,
They're
and
doing.
we could
Mm-hmm.
talk about my research interests. And so I went for the meeting, and we had a long discussion about what they are doing and how I feel I can be involved. And then he asked me what I want, and I asked for an internship. And that's how I got my internship at SEMA and at WSU. And that's how I started. So I finished my internship, went into being a research assistant, data
Mm-hmm.
analyst, data
Yeah.
scientist, grew ranks through the time.
Interesting. Interesting background. And I mean, your story, it's something that needs to be shared. And I know most people here want to know how you got admitted to these top schools. So I want us to dive into the main substance of our discussion. Um, with someone who graduated from your bachelor's in 2020, did you always think that you would one day uh, get a master's or go to graduate school?
Yes. Actually, even before I graduated, as I was doing my undergrad, one of my goals was to finish my undergrad and start my postgrad immediately. So, and I always knew that I wanted to do my postgrad abroad. I just didn't know exactly where and what, but I knew I wanted to finish my undergrad, do my postgrad immediately abroad. And I tried applying in 2020 before I started working. I did apply, but unfortunately, none of them panned out. But in hindsight, as I always say, as cliche as it sounds, rejection is redirection.
Yeah.
Right now I can see how the opportunities didn't pan out and how it played out differently for me and how it benefited me. But yeah, so I always knew I wanted to do my postgrad, I wanted to do it abroad, and I started applying immediately after my undergrad in 2020. So yeah, I've always had this dream.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not everybody who um, has a plan, even at the level of the undergraduate level. So you had a specific, objective that you set for yourself, and I think that is very commendable. But in your search for programs, let's start. I mean, you can combine your first experience in 2020 and your experience in 2022 when you're applying. How did you identify graduate programs that best fit your academic and career aspirations? How was
Okay.
your research like? Your initial research like?
Mm. So back in 2020, when I started my first round of applications, I would say I was a bit naive because I knew I wanted to do a postgrad degree, but I just knew like I've done an undergrad in EPI, so I want to do a master's in EPI and specialize in an area in EPI. And that is all I searched for. So I would go online and search masters in epidemiology in the UK because I knew I wanted to do it in the UK. And then I'd get this lists and websites that have lists of courses, and then now I'd go to each school, then look at the official website, look at the course modules, look at, the good thing with the schools is that they offer all the information on the website.
Yeah.
So they tell you what the course is about, they tell you the modules, they tell you even future career opportunities and where some of the alumni are placed. So I would look at that and then I would imagine if I was seeing myself doing that in the future. And that somehow helped me narrow down my search. And then that was in 2020 when I used to just look for epi courses. But now, after having worked 2 years and based off of my experience working at SEMA, what I appreciate about my work experience is that it exposed me to real life problem sets that exist in society. And I was able to identify potential gaps that I would like to fill using my career in future. So in that
Yeah.
regard, then I was able to streamline my search based on a course that would offer me the skills and expertise that I need to solve the potential gap that I hope to solve in society. So I developed my affinity to data science And then I realized that there is a gap between data and policy. So where evidence-based decision making, especially in Africa, in health. And so I started looking at programs that offer that multi-dimensional approach to health research, where we have data aspects of data science. We also have aspects of policy, and we have aspects of health research, and bringing that all together. And so now I was able to streamline my search to programs that have that. So I would look at programs, but then compare. So I used to have sort of like a decision tree. I have potential programs, then I write down the modules that I would have picked if I did that course, and then what I feel this course is meant to achieve. Like, is it for policymakers? Is it for academics? Is it for implementation
Yeah.
researchers? So yeah, I would say it was a long process, but at the
Yeah.
time it didn't seem long because I was just curious, and I wanted to find out if this exists. So yeah, that is now what informed my choices
Choices.
currently. Yes.
Great. I think this was thoroughly done. I mean, for someone who is applying for a master's program to be, organized at such a level shows that you truly knew what you were doing. But is there any reason why you applied to only schools in the UK? Is there any particular reason why that was the case?
So my choice of the UK is sort of biased, I would say. Like, it's a reason that is one could argue about it. So first, it's because the master's programs are only 12 months. Most of them are 12 months. And I also have plans of doing a PhD, and I felt like I wanted to spend as least time possible in my master's so that I could progress into other things. And then
Okay.
also, growing up, I was a fan of a book series called Harry Potter, and it was based in the UK. And I had this wild dream of, if I go to the UK, I'll be able to live a life that is almost like the one in Harry Potter. So that is just me fulfilling the dream I had when I was young. But yeah, mostly it's the course duration, and then also I've collaborated with several researchers in the UK in my
Okay.
current work,
All right. All right.
and I'm able to expand those collaborations by studying in the UK.
Okay. Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense. Um, so you made mention of how you were organized and how you try to, identify courses that aligns with your interest. I mean, your future career prospects. What were some of the factors or some of the most important factors that you considered in your research? Um, for example, how did you evaluate institutions? I know, like, uh, the Harry Potter was one of it, but what other factors did you consider?
Okay. So aside from just the look of the school, I the one of the, some of the factors that I looked at was the ranking of the program.
Okay.
So the ranking of the department where the program is being offered, because sometimes a school might be good, very good globally, but it's not good for the
A
specific
specific program.
sector where you are going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would look at the ranking of the departments, and then I would also look at the faculty and the kind of research they're doing, and if I feel like there are areas where I could learn from that. And then I also looked at the course modules and how these are being administered, whether it's through practice, and also how they're being assessed. So I'd look at the module, how it's being administered, how it's taught, and how it's being assessed, and what kind of skills I would gain from it. And then also, I looked at what course has other aspects aside from just the academic class aspects. What other aspects can this course offer me? What kind of networks does it have?
Okay.
And I also looked at the class size, because I feel like I want more personalized interaction with the faculty. So I also looked at smaller class sizes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what was cost by any chance part of your uh, decision making tree, or was cost a variable in the model you built for your analysis?
Surprisingly, cost was not a factor because I always knew that I would apply for scholarships and I would apply for fully funded scholarships, so
Yeah,
money won't be an issue. But
yeah.
yeah, cost was never an issue for me when I was looking for programs.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
this was well done. So, as usual, you have to look at several factors, right? From the reputation of the school to the school ranking, and as you said, sometimes reputation or ranking is not enough. The school could be very good in business related courses, but when it comes to maths based courses or, for example, law, they are not the best in that particular field. So that is also very important. And you've mentioned networks, you've mentioned future prospects, the broader alumni network that you would have. Um, so, at this point, we all know you had multiple offers, right? So how did you? Your first scenario, you didn't get any scholarship, so that one it's by the side. But last year when you applied and you realize you've gotten three fully funded scholarships for very highly ranked institutions, how did you navigate the decision making process? How did you arrive that I'm picking Cambridge instead of Oxford or London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine?
I'm actually picking Oxford, but
Oh,
just to
okay.
explain, yeah.
I thought I saw you wearing a
Um,
Cambridge shirt.
yeah, I bought the shirt before I got into Oxford. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So why are you going to Oxford and still wearing a Cambridge shirt?
Yeah, okay. So I think I'll start by saying that when I applied after last year's disappointments and moving on, so this year I decided to cast my net wide. I
Yeah.
decided that if I am eligible for an opportunity, I will apply and I will put in my best foot forward. And so, but these decisions are usually made differently. Like the schools make their decisions at using different timelines.
Yeah.
So I would get one offer and then I would celebrate as if that is the one. And
Yeah.
then I would get another one and then I would get even more confused. And when they became three, I was the most confused. But anyway, so how I decided upon the school is, as I mentioned first, I had my reasons for I had what I was looking for in a course at the back of my mind.
Okay.
And the reason I settled on Oxford is that the program I will be pursuing, the Master of Science in International Health and Tropical Medicine, ticks all the boxes that I had. The others,
Okay.
yes, they would tick majority of the boxes, but there would still be one thing that I would need to compromise on. But the MSc IHTM at Oxford ticked all the boxes because the course is specifically tailored to train researchers to conduct research in resource limited contexts. And my career my career prospects involve improving the health sector in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, and the global South in general. So, and I recognize that these are areas where resources are limited. So I felt like this course would be well tailored for that. And
Okay.
then also, aside from just the academics, they have several aspects of the course that don't focus too much on the academics. For example, they have a session where you prepare policy briefs and you present them to the UK Parliament. So I would also get an aspect of translating science into policy and how to communicate this to a non-science audience. And then they have communication training, they have media training, they have a broad research placement, which would expose me to research institutions that I'm yet to work with. So
Yeah.
it has several aspects in the course that I would not get in the other two courses that I got into, however good they were. Yeah. And then also the modules that I would pick and the faculty that teaches them, some of those researchers, I've worked with them before, and I was excited at the prospect of enhancing the networks I already have with them by
Okay.
taking this course.
Yeah.
So I had several personalized reasons why I picked the course in that regard. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was an easy decision because I felt like regardless of which one I got, it was a win. But then
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really wanted this one out of all of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
then
mean,
that's for the school and the course. And then now for the scholarship, so at least for the Mastercard at Cambridge, that one came with Cambridge. So if I couldn't take Cambridge, I couldn't take the Mastercard at Cambridge.
the
But
scholarship.
then
Okay.
I had the Mastercard at Oxford, and then I also had Chevening and Weidenfeld Hoffman Trust, which can also be taken at Oxford. So for
Okay.
those ones, I had to consult current scholars and former scholars who've been Chevening scholars or Mastercard scholars and ask them, like, if you are in such a position during
What
your
would you
time,
do? Yeah.
what did you do and why? Like, give me reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I
That's
considered
real.
all the advice I got, I went with Mastercard AFOX scholarship at Oxford.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was a well thought through process. Sometimes it's not easy. I've been there before during my masters. When I applied for MPH, I got offers from Harvard, Hopkins, Columbia. I mean, all the top schools, and I said it's either Harvard or Hopkins. So it was the same decision making process. Very, very difficult. Had to consult a lot of people. Sample opinions, but eventually, either Harvard or Hopkins, you will still be good. It wouldn't be a bad decision. And as you rightly mentioned, either Oxford, Cambridge, or LSHTM would have still been a very good decision. So that was good. But okay, we'll get to the scholarship session, and then we'll go deeper into that. So let's look at your application itself, right? Let's look at your application itself. What do you think were the most compelling aspects of your application? For someone to get admission to Oxford, Harvard, and LSHTM at the same time, there must be something that is unique, right? So, is it your work experience? Is it your academic performance, or is it your recommendation letters? Is it your statement of purpose? What can you pinpoint to show that this is probably one of the important factors they considered in giving me these scholarships?
Okay. I want to say that it's a very difficult question simply because I don't think I can say it's one specific thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a culmination of several factors, which I believe that is how they assess the applications. Like
Yeah.
they look at several things and then they make a decision based off of that. Because looking back for academics, the academics are good, but also almost everyone who applies to these schools has done well in school. So I wouldn't even say that that is a factor that sets me out that much. So aside from that, then I would say my work experience was very vital. And not only that, but also how I was able to explain its relevance. Because most of the essays require you to explain your experience and how it relates to what you want to study, and then your
Yeah.
future plans and how the
Yeah.
course will help you achieve that. So my experiences were very good. The work I've done at SEMA, I believe, is very impactful. And I was able to explain how the different things I've been able to do at SEMA make me a relevant candidate for the programs I've applied
Yeah.
for. And then also my future goals are how the impact they will create and how these courses will help me to address that. So I would say the personal statements are very important. I usually tell people that this is the one chance you have to convince someone who has never met you
Yeah.
that you are worth the chance. So literally, they don't know you, they don't know how you look like, they don't know how you sound like, they've never met you, but you have to make them curious enough to want to hear more about you so that they
Yeah.
invite you for an interview or call you to school. So the statements the personal statements are very important in that regard. Like they're the first interaction you have with the panel for them to be like, maybe we want to meet this person and talk to them more. And then also, I would say the interviews were also vital because there are several people who are shortlisted for interviews, but they
Yeah.
don't get in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Int-
And I think that interviews are like the cherry on top, where now, like, okay, you've written well, but I mean, people can get people to write for them in those
exactly.
private
Yeah.
groups. So we
Mm-hmm.
need to see if you're really who you say you are and if your words match who you are in person. So I would say also the interviews, you need to leverage the interviews to convince the panel that away from the words on paper, I'm also an amazing person in this regard. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say it's a combination of all those several things. And lastly, I almost forgot a very important aspect, and that's the references. I personally loved my references. So I had this refer one of some of my referees, two of them actually, would send me the reference letters they sent out after they had submitted them. And
Yeah.
sometimes I would read them and I'd be like, they hold me in such high regard. It's like sometimes I don't believe in myself. So yeah, the references were very
We're
good.
good.
I feel like
Yeah.
if the panel read that, they would also be like, okay, if this person says this, we must check them out. Yeah, the references are also great.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
well, as you've highlighted, it's not a one size fits all, and most times admission committees assess multiple variables. So you could, your GPA could balance your work experience, or your work experience could complement, your recommendation letter. It's every single aspect of your application is crucial. So you have to dedicate time for each aspect of your application. So yeah, it's quite understandable. But what you know what I get from the whole story is that you were able to craft an application that aligns with the program, right? So there was a demonstration of fitness, or there was a demonstration of fitness to the program, and that is very crucial, especially if your field is a research related field, right? Um, so your statement of purpose, I want you to go in a bit detail for me. How did you effectively highlight, your strengths and experiences in your statement of purpose?
Okay. So uh, I usually find that writing the statement of purpose is the hardest part of the application for me.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's the same for others, but
yeah, same.
I feel like it's usually the hardest because I feel like it holds the highest stakes because this is the first point of interaction, as I said, and you have to convince them that you're worth it, you're worth meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then what I realized with the programs I applied for and the scholarships is that most of the essays were a bit different. Like you'd find, okay, the theme is general, yes. Like you need to show your experiences, your leadership qualities, your networking qualities, your career goals. But the way they structure the question is different. And the mistake I find people doing, like a few of the people I've helped to review their essays, is that they use a generic statement for all programs and all scholarships. So
Yeah,
you just find like it's a generic thing, like you just have an introduction, body, and conclusion. The one that you always submit in all applications. That's the first mistake. So for me, what I did is for every application, I crafted a different personal statement for each of them.
yep,
And even though the experiences are the same, like what I've done is what I've done, it's that, but the way I would explain it and how I would bring it in is what would be different. So of course I had a structure of what I wanted to be in my essays. So first I would look through the course, and then I would look through the application and find out what is it exactly. So most schools tell you what they want to see in the statement. Like they might tell you, show how your experiences relate to the course, or why you specifically want to study this course, or
yeah,
such things, or how your experiences have prepared you to be an ideal candidate. So I would write that down, and then I would think like, what is it exactly that they want to see from me. Then I would list down if it's my work experiences or um, networking events that I've attended. I would list them down in order of what I would say is the most impactful to the least impactful. And then now I
mm-hmm.
would start building from that. So the first draft is usually, it's not good. The first
Yeah,
draft is just pouring words into paper. So just
mm-hmm.
typing like this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, just drafting it. And then now I would start, I was taught a very good structure method, I would say, by my mentors. It's called the STAR approach. So for each situation, for each experience or example, I would ask, what was the situation? So here I would explain, like, what was the need for what I did?
Yeah.
Why did I have to do what I did? And then what was the task? Like and then what actions did I take to complete the task? And what was the result? So what was the impact created? Because in everything that you do, you have to show that it is impactful and that it solved the need that you introduced in the beginning. So that's what I would do for each. And then now I would start to bring them together slowly by slowly,
Yeah.
patching everything together. And then, however bad the first draft looked like, I would put it aside for like a day and then come back now with fresh eyes. And then the most painful part would be sending it out to my reviewers. So I had mentors and friends who'd help review my writing. And I say it's the most painful part because you usually have spent several hours, painful hours on this one.
Drafted it.
And the
Yes.
document comes back and it has comments, and it's as if you did not even put effort in
Yeah.
writing it. Yeah, but this was really helpful because sometimes you might be too attached to the words that you've written, but from an outsider's point of view, they don't make sense. Like to you, you know, you did it, you did this, but to an outsider who has not interacted with you so much, they don't understand why it's important, why what you did was important, and you really have to show that your work is important. So that was basically my personal statement process from beginning to the end.
Yeah, I think it was you. It shows how much time you dedicated to it, and as you said, a personal statement should have several drafts. Like you should have at least 5 to 10 drafts of your personal statement. You should keep
Yeah.
revising it. Occasionally you think of something and you said, no, this has to be in a statement. And then you go and find a paragraph and push it there. So revisions are crucial. Revisions are crucial. So you made mention of, your recommendation letters being very strong. What kind of strategy did you use in selecting people to be your recommenders? What were your criteria for selecting people to give you recommendation letters?
Okay. So the criteria was somehow governed by the programs I applied for because some of them specify who should refer you, like either your instructor for undergrad or your project supervisor or a current employer or a former employer. So that was the first criteria I used. Like, what does the school want? Because you have to follow that. And then now, if it said, say, faculty in my undergrad, then I would, good thing with me, I was friends with most of the faculty who taught me. Almost all of them knew me. Actually, all of them knew me. Yeah. So it wasn't so hard approaching them, and because they already knew who I was, so I would just, when I would craft those emails, they would already recognize who I am, and it wouldn't have to be difficult to explain who I am. And so once I identified the people I wanted to refer me, I would introduce myself, even though I know they know me. I would introduce myself, what I'm doing, attach my CV, and then explain that I want to apply for this program because of these reasons and what the
Yeah.
program offers and how I feel like it would be applicable to me. And I did this way earlier before I even started my applications, just when I thought I wanted to apply. I involved them from the beginning so that they'd have enough time to think if they were fit to
Yeah.
recommend me for these programs. And some of them actually said like they didn't feel like they were good, they could recommend me, which it's okay. I understand. They don't owe me. So that was the criteria I used, like what does the school want? And then who do I feel will be able to say the most about me,
Yeah.
or like have most to say about me. And then in my workplace, I'm fortunate enough to have a very good mentor and employer who's the professor I told you I reached out to. So for him, it wasn't as difficult telling him about these opportunities because he studied abroad. He did his PhD in the UK. So
Okay.
when I told him that I wanted to apply, he actually even had insights to offer in the application process. So for him, it wasn't as difficult to get him on board. But for the ones in school, I had to sell the dream to them as well, so that
Yeah.
when they're recommending me, we are in this together. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that was perfectly done. As you've highlighted the essential components. You have to always um, adhere to what the schools are asking you to get. If they want only academic recommenders, provide that. If they want only professional recommenders, you have to provide that. And in your approach, you have to be comprehensive. You have to attach your CV, all the other materials that will let the person remember that this is the kind of person I'm dealing with, and reaching them earlier than the anticipated deadline, because it's also very crucial. Everyone is busy, so you don't want to go and ask somebody for a recommendation letter when it's like 2 weeks to your deadline. That is a bad move. So we've spoken about your recommendation letters, how you selected them, and that was thoroughly done. And your statement of purpose was also, a substantial amount of time was dedicated to that. I want us to move on to the scholarships that you had. I know most people are interested in scholarship because if you're an international student, no matter the schools that you get admitted to, if you don't have a source of financing your education, it becomes a wasted opportunity, right? So scholarships are very crucial. It's an essential component of the study abroad experience, right? So before we move on to that, if you're new, if you just joined us, I'm here with Anita, who got admitted to the top programs in the UK, Oxford, Cambridge, and London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. I had a colleague who graduated from London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. He says you are making a mistake, so I should tell you.
Of course.
Anyway, so So if you're new, kindly consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. If you're on LinkedIn, if you join us from LinkedIn, you can subscribe. You can follow on LinkedIn. We currently have about 25 people watching from YouTube. We have about 20 from Facebook, and then on LinkedIn we have about 50. So there's quite a number here with us. We would take questions very soon, so keep your questions coming. One question I have for the audience is that if you were the one to have gotten admitted to all these three schools, what would you choose? All things being equal, which school would you pick? Anyway, so let's move on to scholarships, right? Did you have to apply separately for the scholarship and then for the program? So there's a situation where you could have a scholarship without a school, or you have to get admitted first before you apply for the scholarship.
Okay. So for the scholarship, it's very tricky in that regard because different scholarships have different timelines. There are some scholarships that open up even before school opens up, like the Rhodes, Chevening, and Commonwealth. So for those ones, like I would talk about Rhodes. Rhodes is associated with Oxford, so that one is direct. Like if you apply for Rhodes, you're applying to Oxford. But something like Chevening, you apply for it earlier on before schools open up for applications, and you have to select 3 choices of schools and programs that you would take if you are selected for the fund.
Okay.
So, and then your essays also, there's an essay where you have to justify your course choices. So for that one, it's tricky because you haven't started your school applications, you don't know if you'll get in, but you have to pick 3 choices and talk about them in an essay, enough to convince people to fund you. So for some scholarships, they're tricky like that. They come before schools. And then some scholarships come in tandem with the school application, but you submit a separate application. Like, for example, the Weidenfeld Hoffman Trust Scholarship at Oxford or the MasterCard Scholarship at Cambridge. Those ones they have the same timelines as the school application, but you submit essays separately. So you write the school essay and then you write the scholarship essay and you submit at the same time. And
Wow.
then we have scholarships that come after school. So, for example, the Mastercard AFOX scholarship at Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've been offered a conditional offer by Oxford, the Mastercard at Oxford invites you to apply for their scholarship. So that one you don't even choose if you want to apply or not. It's
Okay.
up to them to look at the shortlisted candidates who've been offered conditional offers from Oxford, and then pick the ones to invite to apply for the Mastercard at Oxford. So it's different for different scholarships. Some are before, some are during, some are after.
Okay. Okay. That seems a bit different from typical US applications, which usually the most common ones are institutional scholarships. I realize that in the UK there are a lot of external scholarships that are available, but in the US most of it will have to be institutional, and your application also serves as an application for scholarship. So if 80 people got admitted, then they would look at the profiles of the 80 people and then probably rank them in order, and then give them some form of scholarships. So that means that you had to write essays for your program application and then essays for your scholarship application, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
separately. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
quite
do
a lot.
interviews separately. Interviews for school and interviews for
Interview for
scholarship.
scholarship. Wow.
Yeah.
That was a daunting process. But which of the scholarships was specific to a school? You made mention that you could transfer one scholarship from institution to one institution to the other, but another scholarship was not transferable.
Yeah. Yeah. So for the ones that I applied for, an example like roads, if you apply for the Rhodes scholarship, you're applying to the University of Oxford. That is standard. Like if you get in, you'll apply for a program at Oxford. Then we also have the Mastercard scholarship at Cambridge. So there's a Mastercard for Cambridge that is tied to Cambridge, and there's the Mastercard AFOX for Oxford that is tied to Oxford. And then also LSHTM has the Global Health Future Health Leaders Fund. So those ones are linked to the school specifically. Then we have the general ones like Chevening and Commonwealth that you then decide. You kind of have a decision on
Mm-hmm.
where you would like to have the scholarship in, but the others are fixed. If you apply to that scholarship, you're applying to also to that school.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's clearly stated. But I mean, in your application, did you deploy any specific strategies to increase your chances of securing those scholarships? Because you made mention that in 2020, right? You applied,
Mm-hmm.
but you didn't get any funding at all, so you had to defer the program. This time around, what did you do different to increase your chances of getting those scholarships?
Okay. The funny thing is, why I'm laughing is that there was an interview I attended for one of the scholarships at Oxford, and I was asked the exact same question, like what I did different, why I think I was shortlisted this time, and in my head I'm like, you tell me. Anyway, so last year I got into Oxford, and then I didn't get any funding, so I couldn't go. And then, so once I had made that decision, like I had accepted that, like I'd gone through the mourning process, accepted that I'm not going that year,
Yeah.
I sat down and wrote down a master plan, which I have actually shared in one of my LinkedIn posts. And in
Mm-hmm.
this master plan, I researched all kinds of scholarships that can fund me for my studies that I'm eligible for. And I wrote them down. And then I wrote the deadlines, and I wrote the requirements, the referees, anything that would be required from me, the essay questions, everything that I would need. And then I set out a strategy. I took out my calendar, and then I also set out like this week to this week, I would be working on this one based off of the timelines for each of the scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
So in this time, I was very intentional about applying for funding even more, because in my mind, I was like, I already got in last time, so I know they want me. The
Yeah,
problem is the
yeah. Is
money.
the money?
So
Yeah,
I was very intentional about the scholarship applications even more than the schools. So the reason I applied to more schools is because, of course, like last time I had only applied to Oxford, I got in, I didn't get funding. So I felt like more schools would also open up more chances of being funded.
mm-hmm.
So that's why I
Mm-hmm.
applied to more schools. But for the scholarships, I was very intentional. So after writing that down, I would, for each scholarship that I wanted to apply for, I would go on LinkedIn and search for scholars that have also done their studies on that scholarship. So if it's the Rhodes Scholarship, I would look for Rhodes scholars. If it's Chevening, I would look for Chevening scholars. And then I would reach out to them and tell them that I would like to start my application, and this is what I have done so far, and what kind of insights would you offer, or are you willing to review my essays, or are you willing to do mock interviews with me? And I always approach them with the mindset of they don't owe me anything. So
Yeah,
also if they're busy or they feel like they're not able to help me, I would say it's okay, but could you kindly refer me to someone who's also a fellow scholar who you think could help? Because sometimes I might not find everyone, but they know each other, so they know other scholars who
yeah,
have
yeah.
more time, who are more
Mm-hmm.
flexible. So I intentionally reached out. I was in people's DMs. I reached out to people. And then I was more intentional about it, I would say, in that regard. And then also in my writing, I was intentional about, because I realized the thing with scholarships is that there are two main things that they look for. The first one is leadership potential, and the second one is impact. So
Yeah,
you have to, in whatever you write, you have to show leadership, either that you have what in an experience where you showed leadership, or how you are going to be a leader in future. Sorry, a leader in future, and then how the work that you did had an impact on people, and the work that you want to do in future will have an impact on people. So
yeah.
in every ECA I would write, I would make sure there's an aspect of leadership and there's an aspect of impact.
Demonstrate
I was
impact.
very
Yeah.
intentional about bringing out that. And then also, I would say, be an interesting writer. Like, I think this is underrated, but
Yeah.
it's human beings who are reading all these essays, and you
Mm-hmm.
find like one person reads hundreds of essay at a time,
Yeah.
and it's human nature to be tired and to be bored. So find a way to make your writing interesting so that you're able to captivate their attention. So that is, I would say, those are some of the tips that helped me this time. And also just several rounds of review, several rounds of mock interviews, several rounds of consulting with so many scholars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you've demonstrated how important it is to put things together. And as you said, writing is a skill, right? So you need to practice. There are times that I review people's statements, and you could see that they have all the various elements to make their story really, really compelling. Uh, so I would probably show them how I'll craft one sentence or a paragraph, and then when you send to them, they're like, "Oh wow, yeah." So I mean, practicing writing is truly a skill that you need to learn. So we've spoken about your the strategies that you deployed. Um, so the scholarship package itself, how different is it in terms of what it comes with? How different it's one from the other?
Okay. So, so the I would say the most common structure is when they say fully funded scholarships, like the ones I got, all of them were fully funded. It means that they cover tuition, they pay all your tuition fee, and then they provide a stipend. That is the bare minimum that they provide. But then
Mm-hmm.
you find like one has extra features, like for example, the Mastercard AFOC scholarship that I chose. It pays for my visa fees, it pays for my international health surcharge, which you have to pay when you're applying for a UK visa. It pays for my flights, both going to school and coming back home. And then it also pays for a leadership program that I'll be a
Yeah.
part of as a Mastercard AFOX scholar. And then so it has an emergency fund that you can apply for in case of an emergency. So aside from just tuition and stipend, it has extra packages inside it. And then the one in, like, for example, the Mastercard scholarship at Cambridge even offers a laptop, so they give you a choice. You choose which laptop you want, and they also provide that as part of the package. So I would say the bare minimum is tuition and stipend, but some scholarships have added incentives on top of
Other
that.
perks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those are interesting packages. At least people there are some people who are only searching for tuition scholarships, and it's still challenging. So to have 3 schools offer you tuition and stipend, that is a huge accomplishment. So for prospective students who are looking to apply to the UK specifically, can you just summarize some scholarship opportunities that they can look into, depending on the schools that they are applying?
Okay, so I would say that if you're applying to a specific school, on the school website, if you go to the funding page, you'll be able to see especially the school specific scholarships on there. So those ones differ between schools, but there are also general scholarships that cover whichever school you go to. And currently the Rhodes Scholarship is open, which, as I mentioned, is based at Oxford. But that one usually has an age limit. I think it's 24 years, if I'm not wrong. So that one limits people. But then aside from that, Chevening will open up in a few days, in the beginning of August. And the good thing with Chevening is that you pick 3 schools and 3 programs where you'd want for it to fund you. So it's more flexible in that regard. And then, but for Chevening, you have to have at least 2 years work experience, and they're very strict on that. So that's why I was not eligible for it last year. Yeah, and then there's also the Commonwealth Masters Scholarship, which opens up around October. Then we have the Commonwealth Shared Scholarships, which open up around December. And then we have the Mastercard Scholarships, which open up in December as well. And there's also now, as I mentioned, school-specific scholarships that are on the funding page of the schools. So those ones differ by schools. Yeah.
Okay. So what is a typical application cycle for most of the UK schools when there's application open for the institutions themselves? So for someone who wants to apply to a school in UK, which month should a person be looking into?
Okay, so most schools open up in September. The earliest open up in September. So if you're planning to start your studies next year, be on the lookout from September this year, because they start between September, and then the ones that open up in September have deadlines in December, and then there are others that open up in January and have deadlines in March. So if you're planning to go to school next year, from September this year, you have to be on the lookout for that. So you must have identified the schools that you want, the programs that you want, the scholarships that you want. Then I'll be on checking on the website when they'll open up, starting from September. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good. Let's take some questions from the audience, and then we'll move on to the last segment, which is interview and what you're looking to do next. So we have a lot of compliments here. There's one from Ibrahim Bashir, who says, thanks for the initiative. May the Almighty reward us. All right, we take it. That's Fayemi Ibrahim, who says, good day, Dr. Banda. I would like to know if there are funding opportunities for Africans in Oxford University. I think that is what we are discussing now. So Anita is from Kenya, and she got fully funded scholarship to Oxford, and I know a couple of guys who also got scholarships to Oxford. So yes, if you're an African, that's an opportunity for you for funding. Let me see. This one from Kaz says, "Thank you, Dr. Banda and Anita, for running this live stream. How should someone organize their statement for applying to postgraduate courses at Oxford, Cambridge?"
Yes.
I see. So so he wants to know how to organize their statement. I think we've tackled it, right? You've spoken at length about the statement of purpose, how to structure it. So Kaz, hopefully we've answered your question during our discussion. If not, maybe you can rewind and have a look at it again. We have Abdurazak Ibrahim. Anita, did you both apply for the course and the scholarship, or you applied the scholarship after getting admitted? I think we spoke about this, all right? But I mean, you can summarize it for Abdul Karim.
Okay, so some scholarships I applied for before schools open up, like Chevening. Then some of them were in tandem with the school application. So like the Weidenfeld Hoffman Trust Scholarship, it has the same timeline as the school, so they go hand in hand. And then some I applied for after being conditionally accepted, like the MasterCard AFOC scholarship that I mentioned. You're invited to apply for the scholarship after you've been selected for the program. So yeah, they all had different timelines. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Ibrahim, I hope you've gotten the answer. Okay. Somebody wants to know, Anita, must I have first class honors to get scholarship?
I want to say no. No, you don't have to have first class honors to get a scholarship. It depends on which scholarship though. So the grades are more, I would say grades are more about the school you're applying to and the program you're applying for, because the program usually says on their website like the minimum requirements they want, especially in academics. So they either say a 2.1 or a 1.1 or this level of GPA. So the grades are more applicable on the program that you want to apply for, but the scholarships are more about you as a whole. Like, what is it about you that is away from academics? So I'd say for a scholarship, you don't have to have first class honors, but for the program I'm going to study at Oxford, you have to have had first class honors. So yeah, that's the answer.
Okay, so Oxford first class?
For most programs, like the one I'm going for.
Okay, so what GPA is that? What GPA puts you at first class in a UK institution? I don't know how your GPA is recorded in Kenya, but is it on the 4.0 scale?
For Kenya we use the honors ranking, so like first class, honors, second class, upper, lower. So I'm not sure about the GPA grade, but on the website they usually specify how to convert your qualifications. So if you're ranked using GPA, you can convert to see which category they are at. But yeah, so in Kenya we use honors, so I'm not really sure about
that's understandable. Ibrahim again, well done Anita, and congratulations. Please, how did you do it in your journey to gain admission? Did you look for admission first? Oh, I think we've settled this. We've settled this. For someone interested in implementing public health interventions, especially with donor organizations such as USAID and other international organizations, what would be your advice? I think this is opportune for discussion on maybe career prospects instead of graduate school application. There is question from Gutami. Is this for undergraduates? No, Gutami, we are talking about a graduate level. So even if you're an undergraduate, you could pick very important strategies from our discussion here today. Okay, someone says UK or US. Which schools would you advise someone interested in postgraduate public health programs to consider applying? What are the disadvantages? I mean, I would say it's any location is good, as long as that program aligns with your interest, right? So if you're interested in public health, there are very good schools in the US. There are also very good schools in the UK. There are equally great schools in Canada and even in Europe for public health education. But it looks like most people want to either go to the UK or the US, but you can't go wrong with any of those countries. I think the most important thing is about the institution and the reputation they build for themselves when it comes to public health education. Okay, I think I asked a question about where they would choose if they were given the opportunity to go. This guy couldn't choose. Khadija couldn't choose one. She said Oxford or Cambridge, all things being equal. I think less people know about London School of Tropical Hygiene and Medicine, but they are really, really good when it comes to public health and public health related courses. John says Oxford. Anyway, yeah, it looks like a lot of people seem to be agreeing with you. Okay, so I think we are almost through with the questions on Facebook. Bashir says, Dr. Banda, in your search for schools and scholarship, did you ever consider the UK? Unfortunately, no. I'm surprised. I didn't. I think when I was applying for my master's, it was all about US. I didn't think about the UK at all. I think it was at the PhD level that I considered one program, but I ended up not applying. I still said, if I've invested all my time here, I might as well continue with my PhD. So yeah, I didn't consider any schools in the UK, unfortunately. Okay, so I think people want to know, when you say you applied in 2020 and you got admission but you didn't get any funding, did you have to defer or you have to start the whole application again?
Okay, so unfortunately, Oxford and Cambridge have no deferral policy. And basically what they mean is that for you to defer a program, you have to have fulfilled all conditions, including financial conditions, and then you have to justify, and the reason has to be very justifiable. So mostly it's usually health reasons that they accept a deferral. But otherwise, they advise that if you are not able to go because of funding, then you drop that application entirely and you start afresh, like someone who never applied. So that's why I usually say that I started applying again, because I had to let go of that offer entirely and start the process from scratch, because Oxford and Cambridge have a no deferral policy. But some schools do allow you to defer, and then you can apply. Like, I know people who deferred and then they apply for Chevening, and then now they take Chevening with the deferred offer. But Oxford and Cambridge do not have a deferral policy in that regard.
Okay. So if you don't get funding, it means you have to relinquish your position and reapply the following year, right?
Yes, everything from scratch. Yeah.
Yeah, but once you've gotten in, you've at least know the standard they are looking for. Even though standards change every year and every cohort, at least you've been able to get in. So that is good.
Yeah, it really does. It validates that you're able to get in.
Yeah. Okay. Both Anita, tell us something about the benefits and the enjoyable aspect of the funding. For the stipend, did you get to address all your basic needs and still save, or you narrowly survived? I'm sure Anita will be able to talk a little about this, even though she's not started enjoying it yet. But I'm sure it will be enough for her, because looking at the package that she's talking about, it should be good. I mean, for me, in my during my master's education, which I still miss till now, the package was extraordinary, because our program was the Summer Scholars Program. So the Summer Scholars Program is funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies, and named after you know our past dean, our summer. So every year they select a couple of people across the globe as summer scholars. And as you said, the basic is your stipend and tuition. And then it came with a whole lot of perks, traveling to go and see influential people, organizing leadership seminars and all that. So I would say, yes, it was great. It came with a lot of perks, and it was able to address the basic needs, and still you can make up something for yourself. But sometimes it depends on how big you want to live, right? So no matter the stipend they give you, if you want to go and rent a $2,000 apartment, you'll be faced with challenges. Okay. Yeah. So I think we've delved into the questions on Facebook and YouTube. We will come back to questions on LinkedIn, but for now, I think we've almost run out of our time. Let's talk about briefly about the interview process. So, did you interview for both the scholarship and the program, or you interviewed only for the program or only for the scholarship?
So for Oxford and Cambridge, I did interviews for both the school program and the scholarship. But for London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, I did not have to do an interview for the program.
Okay. How about the scholarship? Yeah, I think we've lost.
Under Chevening, yeah.
Okay. I think we lost you briefly.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about
So,
that.
so did you have to interview for the scholarship at London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine?
Yes. So for LSHTM, it's just the program doesn't have an interview, but the other two schools, the program also has an interview. Then for the scholarships, all of them have interviews. That is standard. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So take us through the interview process. You interviewed at 3 programs. What were the common themes, or what were the common questions that was running through all the programs? What were some of the common questions?
Ironically, the program's questions were different entirely. Like for Oxford, I don't know. I feel like they just want to see how you would think in if you were in a class setting in that regard. So like for Cambridge, I was applying for the MPhil in Population Health Sciences under the Global Health track. So most of the questions were based off of that. Like they would ask me questions like, if you are a health leader in your country and you had one problem that you could resources to solve one problem, which problem would you solve and why? And what would you differently? What would you do differently than what is being done by the current leaders right now? So it was more about the program itself. And then in the Oxford one, it was also almost similar. So like for example, what does leadership mean, and how do you see yourself as a leader after finishing your masters, and things like because the course is very diverse and we get individuals from diverse backgrounds, how would you deal with diversity, or what strengths and weaknesses do you see in diversity? So I would say that the questions for the programs were different, but the questions for the scholarships, however different they were, they had a common theme. As I mentioned, scholarships mostly look out for leadership and impact.
Yeah.
So most of the questions for the scholarship interviews were about, tell us about a time you showed leadership in your work or outside your work, or tell us about a courageous thing you've ever done that is away from academics. And then they mostly pull you away from academics. They ask you to give examples that are away from academics because they
Yeah.
want to see you outside of class. So they would ask questions like, how would you network and how would you leverage networks to create impact? And then, of course, there's always the question about your future. So, like career
Yeah.
goals and the impact they'll create and how relevant they are to what you want to study. I would say those are the general themes in the interviews I did.
Great, great, great. I mean, talking about the future plans, what are your plans after Oxford?
Ah, I thought I knew what I want to do, but anyway, that aside, my plans, as I mentioned, are to the bigger picture is to see how to use data to inform policy making, so to provide evidence for policy making. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm specifically interested in infectious disease epidemiology. So conduct infectious disease research using applied modeling, that is epi modeling and economic modeling,
Yeah.
to inform to inform interventions and policies. So for example, like if an intervention program is being rolled out, you could use modeling to predict how the interventions would affect the outcomes of the disease. So my future plans will revolve around infectious disease research and informing policy and intervention programs using modeling. And also mentorship away from school. Mentorship is also a big thing to me, so I would like to see how I can apply mentorship not only in grad school applications like this, but also in my work. So maybe have a research hub where I mentor younger researchers when I become an
Mm-hmm.
older researcher. Yeah, mentor younger researchers to grow in their career because I was offered such an opportunity as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's always exciting when you get such an opportunity and you want to give back. I think it's always a good thing. So, yeah, we, the African youth or the LinkedIn community would so much benefit from mentorship from people who have gone through the process, who have experienced the process, and who know what it takes to get to that height. So, engaging in mentorship will truly help. We are coming closer to our program. Um, let's take some few questions from LinkedIn, and then we can let you go. You know it's late, very late in Kenya. Uh,
Okay.
okay, so someone wants to know. So typically in the US, most public health programs will require that you do what we call transcript evaluation. So you send your transcript, and an independent organization will assess your grades and then compare it to the US equivalent. Uh, did you have to do something like that in the UK, or it was just the transcript from your school?
Yeah, for all the schools I applied, I didn't have to do anything extra. They only specified that if the transcripts are not in English, you offer a translation. But mine were in English, so I didn't have to do much. I just sent them as they were.
Oh, okay. Well, so that's
Yeah.
one cost out of the total application fee, because transcript evaluation
Yeah.
is almost $250, I think. So
Yeah, that's the
without that,
price.
yeah, I think that's good. Somebody says he would choose Cambridge. Um, uh, Somebody says, how does an international student find fully funded scholarship or PhD programs in the UK universities? It's so hard to find. Kindly help. Well, I mean, if you listen to our conversation, you would realize that it's, even though it's hard, but it's possible, right? You
Yeah.
you you just have to strategize. There's no shortcuts. There's no
Yeah.
shortcut to success, or there's no shortcut to greatness. If you want a good school, you have to put in the work. If I always tell people that if your target is to get into the top programs, you would have to do very, very well putting together your application. So Hashika, it sounds or it looks very difficult, but it's doable. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the work. We have Ella Bosire from Nairobi. Okay, can we have sample of what you would call an ideal statement of purpose? Yeah, I think a sample of someone's statement of purpose would be challenging unless the person decides to share it with you. But if you want samples of statement, there are a couple of channels on YouTube that shares their statement of purpose with viewers. I, for one, have shared my statement of purpose when I was applying to Harvard and Hopkins and Columbia during my master's, and also shared my statement of purpose for my PhD. So you can look it up. Somebody said, would a person with 2.2 grade have a chance to get a scholarship in the US? I think it depends on the school. Every school has their minimum requirement. Okay. All right. I think we've dealt with a lot of the questions. Okay. Somebody says, is it Sophia Onovo? Sophia Onovo says, away from scholarship applications, is it necessary to have a contact person in schools you want to apply? Anita, did you have any contact person in, say, Oxford or Cambridge or LSHTM before you applied?
So by contact person in this case, I'm assuming you don't mean someone in faculty because that would present a conflict of interest. But what I did, as I mentioned, is I reached out to current and former scholars, so people who've applied and gotten in before. So I would say those are my contact people in that regard, because they've been through this and they have insights to offer. But I wouldn't say that I had someone, say, in the admissions panel or in the scholarship selection panel. I don't even know who does that. So no.
Yeah. So yeah, you don't typically have to know people per se, but I mean sometimes more, especially if you're applying to a PhD program, then it's helpful to reach out to a couple of faculty, mainly to let them know your interest in their work, whether they are into infectious diseases, whether they are into dynamics or something like that. Then you reach out to them to share your interest. But it's not, there are institutions that advisors can help you get a slot in a program, and there are others that the faculty has no say who gets admitted. So reaching out to